I was dubbed dead weight in front of 37. No notice, no invitation to a meeting, just into my weekly operations review with ease, like a tailored chinos and a preppy guillotine. I had been leaning against the whiteboard, presenting, and exclaimed, "I'm bored, and I'm drinking his dumb pistachio smoothie. Why we still have legacy workers is beyond me." It's as if no one is carrying dead weight. No one moved as they laughed, only a little hum of my dignity's stench and the HVAC. I served as the director of catching fire. Properly fulfilled, I had constructed our supply chain starting from the beginning. He even left whatever Ivy League school he was in. He learned that smirk from frat 12 years ago. 3 emergencies and a multimillion-dollar $1 purchase that I personally mediated. As my father passed away in COVID, Whitmore, the future hospice Bradley, didn't inquire and didn't know any of that. Didn't care that he had a strong jawline enough to cut a resume and empathy. His father's executive ghosted him. According to a story, his last job lasted. After 9 months, a joint decision was made. Following the discovery that his pitch deck had been lifted verbatim from a YouTube video. He was the CEO's shipper now. Code was the transformation consultant. Our legal department recommended against. He was named CEO outright by his father, who oversaw the. I managed the supply chain for only one company. We all bled for this location, and he simply painted a target on me, but I remained silent. I nodded as I closed the PowerPoint. My group and left in front of me. Lied to me in the restroom, so I shut the door. Sat like a war on the toilet seat. Widow wearing a silk blouse, gazing at the black tile till I started to breathe more slowly. Found 12 apparent grout cracks. Similar to my years here, which was amusing. Layoffs, as well as in the room where we were shaving whole departments from the books, such as steak fat, but this was not like the others. I wasn't personally calculated in this. I was gone by the next moment, and he simply had not yet submitted the documentation. Something about the tone with which he spoke itched like an echo behind my ears. Unable to control their rage or authority. He had a plan, something smugly confident, and that frightened me more than anything else. Severance clause, and I received. Upon returning to my desk, I noticed a post-it note on my at 400, monitor Bradley would like to see you. I texted my spouse this afternoon, and it appears that occurring, he replied via text, "I'll relax the shotgun or champagne." At precisely 4 o'clock. I entered the conference room made of glass. 2 HR representatives were already seated by Bradley. Flanked him as if he had pallors. HR staff members overly courteous smiles while "Sarah, your mortgage is going to be terminated." As if we were old high, Bradley said. "Let's face it, school pals, you've been a benefit to a very reliable archive that I." Examined the glossy folder on the table. The exit package is too thick for comfort, yet leaner, more agile thinking is our new direction. View this as an opportunity to reinvent myself. Severance was the folder that was opened. Surprisingly high 6-month base pay. Vesting options were left unaltered as a bonus. I squinted to see whether you wanted me to leave. He grinned like a man who was content and peaceful. I want you to think that he invented chess. To get off your feet without causing animosity. Mercy wasn't what this was. Insurance, but I signed it and played along. Calmly holding a throat full of battery acid, grinned and shook his hand. Left as like I was going to brunch. After that, I uncorked a bottle of older than his social media accounts, shiz. Showed up and opened the folder I had saved. Concealed for 6 months in my closet, Moga. Bradley's private acquisition packet. Was unaware that the actual game had begun. Prior to receiving his workplace nameplate. He was unaware of my private conversations. with Moga, the vendor, are complete. He was unaware of the freight ecosystem's operation. Either its creator was divorcing or. That past October, I had taken a plane to Houston, leaving with a promise while wearing a gray jacket. He didn't sign a quiet NDA and a napkin. Be aware of any of that, but he would shortly. Monday morning arrived in a calm. I didn't sleep the night before the detonation. Prior to excessive adrenaline, I saw the sun flow through as I planned the blinds while calculating margins for numbers Bradley's severance forecasts hoped would keep me quiet had suddenly turned into. My tactic is similar to giving your firing squad the firearm and understanding that you still had the. At 8:04 a.m., gunfire, I entered a 2 hours at a dull office building. No logos south of the city. Only a keypad door and a receptionist. Neon light bulb flickering in the corridor that hummed as though it was hurting. I met Muga's founder, Vince Caldwell. If you can call a room, it's in the break room. With a sickly Keurig and an uneven. You searched a break room for a vending machine. Similar to an elderly longshoreman in a. Henleys that were creased and boots that hadn't seen polish from the time of Obama. You. Are you certain you want this headache? He inquired. Drinking burnt coffee out of a foam cup. Cup if you invest in yourself, you know. Inherit all of the demons that have plagued this place since 1997. I'm a woman, I grinned. I previously danced in logistics with. This is only his cousin, the devil. Laughed and threw a folder at me. You still have 51% of the pending wire confirmation. I moved the money from 3 accounts for my quiet severance. Sale of a previous investment I made. When Bitcoin was still a. You clarified during gatherings, and the third a. Loan from a ghost in the trust of my late sister. Money that I vowed never to touch. It was, unless there was blood in the water, and. It had a pistachio smoothie-like flavor. 11:45 a.m. I was mostly interested in. By 1:30, Moga had entered their system as interim chair, and I was drafting by 2:10. The letter about freight restructuring that would fall on the desk of my former employer like a velvet-wrapped wrecking ball. The fact that there are no authorized fireworks. Just a modest 18% rate rise without any showmanship. Then an abrupt, enigmatic pause on all. Chosen timetable because of the volume. Congestion and realignment of strategy. Bradley wouldn't anticipate it. Most likely didn't even recognize Moga's name. Procurement took care of the specifics which. That he would experience the consequences before he. Never recognized the eye of the storm, but. Before I could, something else occurred. At 3:26 p.m., I finished enjoying the move. My unknown number buzzed on the phone in the Houston area. Code, then it buzzed once more after I let it ring. We should chat about your text this time. Motion wasn't missed, and I gazed at. All it said was K, not Vincent. Just K-my if you're on the Moog subboard. My stomach turned over because there was just one someone in my life signed off as the mother of K. Katrina Whitmore Bradley and the former spouse of the CEO, the woman who once whispered in a conference room to me. Following a merger meeting, you're aware that you're smarter than everyone else, right? Conceal the fact that I hadn't spoken to her. 6 years have passed since her disappearance. Following the divorce, she was discreetly purchased out of her 12% stake in the reality that she was getting to. Out now that she was aware of my actions. Either I or someone else made a mistake. Long earlier, someone else had been preparing a conflict. I even grabbed my sword, and perhaps I simply entered her battleground. Did not yet reply to her text. I took a walk instead, not the kind that seeks clarity via meditation. Where your mind is a place where your body moves. Furnace, each step resonating with why you don't want answers to some questions. Now, why did she know that there were Just 5 individuals at Muga were aware that I was. None of them, as well as the new majority owner, had a motive to divulge it. I hadn't even not yet signed the public documents that indicated that Katrina had a person on the back in the interior, or she was the interior. Katrina Whitmore was more dreaded on that day, more esteemed than her spouse, and twice as she created the brand and managed the marketing like a. She was called by the mob boss and Pearl's personnel Velvet Guillotine because she could. You wouldn't even feel the cut if you were gone. Until you noticed that your email bounced. Then she disappeared, leaving no LinkedIn activity. Only a footnote in a PR statement, quarterly reporting, and some rumors regarding the settlement that purchased her. Stillness until 5:12 p.m. when I finally broke. Replied to me, asking, "What do you want?" Dots appeared, vanished, and then reappeared. Then, like a piece of rotten garbage, her message arrived. Dinner with Dagger K, just you and I and some overdue candor, belly 7 tomorrow. Sharp, I stared. You'll want to hear this. Bell's wasn't a restaurant at the screen. The eatery was the location where secrets were eaten by power, and no one ever requested the wine list due to the Sumier was already aware of your tells and had made the reservation on a Tuesday that wasn't a. I played the move of meeting that straight into it the following evening at 7:03. Katrina was sitting already, circling something crimson and incredibly costly in a glass the size of a font used for baptism. She appeared unaltered by time, as if she had created a bargain with the devil, followed by a mediator. I slipped inside the booth after his second divorce. She didn't say anything across from her, simply a tiny envelope was slid over the table. There were 3 words and no preface inside. Pictures of Bradley shaking hands with to a scan stock transfer by Vince Caldwell. Contract that was signed 2 weeks prior to my purchase. 3, a series of emails between Bradley and a man by the name of Harrison Drake. The CFO of Moog talks about partial purchasing in order to integrate vertically. Felt my arms blood dripping out. Katrina said, I tried to beat you to it. Voice like ash over velvet at last, but he is too conceited to find out who was in charge of swing shares, so your timing is. Importantly, you didn't simply purchase 51% of Moga. His consolidation proposal was blocked by you. Dry-mouthed, he blinked and desired to obtain for your ex-husband's business, Moga. Bradley's slight change was acknowledged. Strategy, it's not about becoming slender. Leverage in order to get control over the supply chain in order to enhance its worth. And receive a golden payout in 2 years. She halted on the parachute, and you shattered that. Sat back, so why are you gloating? Katrina grinned cruelly, this is an offer, you keep Moga. I arched an eyebrow. However, I would prefer that you front the 5% silence motions. I give you information, and in 6 months he will be hanging from strings. I laughed bitterly, thinking he had bound himself. She hardened her eyes, so why would I trust you? Because you don't hate my son as much as I do. The table was a no man's for a moment. Land between 2 bleeding women. For the identical throne, and then gradually I grabbed the wine menu. If we were in the intending to destroy this dynasty, we'd require a respectable toasting vessel to pair with the 3 days later, the first strike occurred, and it comes from somewhere other than Bradley. An internal audit request was received in accounting. Moga is as accurate and clean as a sniper. And explanation in front of the eyes of vendor ownership connections, it said in a neutral tone, yet the subtext. At least he knew if Neon Bradley did. Thought he had been tipped off by someone. Harrison Drake's depressing excuse, most likely. For a CFO with the tenacity of a no discretion and a beige curtain. I was able to almost hear the weasels. There has been a voice in the boardroom. Development, at which point the calls. Began leading the warehouse's procurement. Supervisors, including a junior logistics analyst. 3 years ago, I received a terrified. "Hey Sarah, do you really own Mugen? I just got a message from Devon in operations saying freight is being pulled away from. Tell me, Whitmore Corp., that you're not destroying our department." And simply. Such that I became aware of the most potent. Bradley's weapon wasn't cash or. In the ranks, it was a position of fear. Whispers of worry that if they took a side, they would be purged if they had the wrong legacy. By whatever deity emerged victorious that. Katrina called me that night and said, "I told you he'd smell it out," she remarked in a cold voice. He's not intelligent, but he's suspicious, and that contributes to his risk." I was pacing my apartment without shoes, wine glass unopened. Windows open to the raging storm. So what will he play next? Victim, I'm bored, please spin the. You're the unstable X in the story. Employee yelling, I'll call it. Retaliation indicates that you're emotionally. I massaged my temples, feeling compromised. Would have landed if I hadn't simply bargained. Eliminated Mogs and added 3 additional bulk routes. Katrina's voice, 8% shipping loss. Down to a whisper, Sarah, you must. Personally assaulted him and threatened him professionally. He is able to maneuver yet degrades him. Discredit him before the board that. I didn't answer, but he can't live. The following morning, I called Gerald. Fintech was owned by Gerald, one of Whitmore Corporation's largest customers and, more significantly, he detested Bradley, who 2 years prior had. While intoxicated at a Vegas trade show, Gerald. His wife had the appearance of a cheap Ivanka. The contract was strained, yet. Gerald largely avoided inertia. As of right now, when we had coffee together, I simply slid a pitch without pitching anything. Moog's new paper across the table. 10% reduction in exclusive distribution rates. More than Whitmore could compete with. Assured timely delivery and no search charge variations over a period of 18 months. Gerald glanced at the page before turning to face me. I guess I finally trod on someone's throat. I took a drink of my latte and offered it to you. The boot to complete the task he agreed to. By Friday afternoon, Whitmore's. The logistics team was in a state of panic and. God bless the interns with the released email. Fintech on pause with the topic line urgent. The person who authorized this Bradley hadn't appeared. Up to headquarters in 2 days, according to rumors. Sweating when working remotely as a translator. Shots in his expensive loft and. Most likely, he blames everyone but himself. I received a courier envelope that weekend. Return address that only contains my capitalized name. Letters included within a single Polaroid picture. Bradley, without a shirt, is carrying a tumbler of. One hand holding whiskey, the other arm around. Someone who looked uncannily like Harrison. The timestamp for Drake said, last Thursday. Scrolled on the back in loops at 3:44 a.m. Everyone has leverage, therefore all you have to do is to choose which button to press. It dawned on me. Then, Katrina wasn't merely giving me food. Information that she was composing a symphony of ruin, and I was only the instrument with the loudest sound in her arrangement. Didn't get any sleep that night, not because the picture with Bradley in it. Draped across his own CFO while half drunk. It was like a frat dude having a breakdown. Incredibly fascinating, yet due to. In other words, the Polaroid wasn't. Katrina's message was one of blackmail. Claiming to me that she was under surveillance. Was observing every action and every shadow. She had plans and all the secrets, but. This is the issue with brilliance. Conspirators, they don't remember everyone. Enjoys playing the role of pawn, even if the game Favors them. I contacted them on Sunday afternoon. I didn't meet her because I wanted the truth. How long have you been without a warm-up? She planned this without missing a beat. Ever since I was called by Whitmore Sr. a brand liability and made a payment offer. I tightened my hold on the phone to make myself vanish. I waited for the 6 years that you did. Coolly, the right kind of storm, and then you appeared like a flash of lightning in a bottle. I once chuckled sharply and lack of humor and the aftermath of burns. You simply want to exact revenge on her. Pause was brief but conveyed the message, I want my company's name isn't on the paper, however. I don't care who has to, in fact. That was the first time I failed to acquire it. Hesitated because of the manner in which she stated that it wasn't a metaphor for Hurricane Katrina. If I wasn't playing for keeps. Cautious that I might cause collateral damage. Sporting a crown that I didn't request, yet I didn't retreat just yet since as she had tricked me into advancing the Bradley had started moving the first domino. I received the updated ping back on Monday morning. Email with the subject urgent in your inbox. I opened it, and there's a vendor suspension. According to Bradley, all Muga POS had been stopped. Disparities between quality control and referenced an audit report that didn't exist. With immediate effect, Muga was under. Orders for performance reviews were suspended. Payments that halted contact in order to redirected via legal. It was a corporate siege. I smiled because Bradley was unaware that I had already. Half of the deliveries were redirected through shell companies that I possessed through a holding. Various labels for the same shipments from the same company. His suspension had little significance for the behind him, trucks are already unloading warehouses, but the optical equipment was all the information I required to reply, so I did. I wrote a straightforward open letter for the public. At Moga, we stand by our elegance lethal standards and our offerings, the postponement of delivery brought on by internal regulations. Changes in client organizations do not accurately represent our logistical performance. But we still see their interior chaos. Prepared and equipped to fulfill all obligations. As per our current arrangement, we will not but sacrifice honesty or transparency. At 2:13 p.m., I clicked send. The hashtag Whitmore meltdown was trending at 2:26. By 3 o'clock on Twitter, 2 more significant clients contacted Moga directly to inquire if they were able to avoid Whitmore Corporation and Katrina's direct source. At 4:07 p.m. Sent an SMS saying, "Good job, Queen." He's pacing in. The office of his father is accusing it of sabotage. You know what, Daddy is spotted with the board. A second message then appeared. Additionally, he recently had a guest attached. A security camera's blurry still. Bradley standing across from him in his office. From an attorney wearing a gray slate suit, the type of outfit that partners wear. And exit clauses. I looked at it in the manner that one also looks at an approaching train. He was lawyering up because he was fascinated to move. The moron believed he could sue me, so I intended to allow him to try the lawsuit hit my inbox at precisely 8:01 a.m. as if it had been scheduled by a person hungry for vengeance. Subject of the intern, Whitmore Corp. fee. Take note of the Saratam preliminary injunction.